The countdown is on for Super Tuesday in North Carolina's primary election. Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Julian Grace. Well, the candidates vying for the Republican Party's nomination spent their time trying to win over North Carolina voters today. Former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley came to a Raleigh brewery, and former President Donald Trump talked to supporters at the Greensboro Coliseum. That's where WRAL's Shelley Jackson was today. She's part of our team coverage from the campaign trail. And Shelley is live in Greensboro, where former President Trump wrapped up his speech about 2.5 hours ago. Shelley, what are some takeaways from today's event?
Julian, just 2 hours ago, like you mentioned, this was packed. The Greensboro Coliseum, unofficial number, about 5,000 people. 5,000 people here to see the former president. He spoke for about 90 minutes. During that time, he only referenced his Republican opponent, former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, once by name, instead focusing most of his energy on President Joe Biden. He also spent most of the time and energy going after the border and immigration.
Right here, and all that came, and then now they're wrapping around the front of the Swarm building.
The crowds came out early in Greensboro, waiting for their chance to see former President Donald Trump.
We're out here to show our tremendous Trump support.
I'm a Trump fan, and I've got his pictures all over my wall in my bedroom.
President Trump focusing his speech on immigration and crime.
It's a new category, migrant crime. We call it Biden migrant crime.
Trump asserting that immigrants were behind violent crime in the U.S. That's despite a Department of Justice study showing undocumented immigrants committing fewer crimes than native-born citizens. The former president also referencing his legal issues.
I'm being indicted for you. I am. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Trump talked about Michael Whatley, chairman of the NCGOP. The former president is backing him to be the next head of the Republican National Committee, and he endorsed Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson for governor.
You are outstanding, and you're going to be the next governor, so that's going to be very cool.
Trump didn't spend as much time on the economy, but he went after Biden's energy policies, even though the United States is currently producing more oil than any other nation in history, according to the S&P.
We're going to start drill.
The loudest applause of the rally came when Trump addressed cultural issues.
On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual.
And he says his campaign is just starting.
We're a freight train, and we're going, and we're not stopping.
And North Carolina is one of 15 states heading to the polls next week for Super Tuesday. Julian?
North Carolina is definitely in the discussion. WRAL's Shelley Jackson live in Greensboro tonight. Thank you, Shelley. Meanwhile, here in the Triangle, the former president's last Republican rival standing held her own rally. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley spoke to an overflow crowd of hundreds of supporters at Union Station this afternoon. WRAL Capitol Bureau Chief Laura Leslie reports the energy level there was extremely high.
Speaking to a crowd of hundreds of enthusiastic supporters today here in Raleigh, Nikki Haley had sharp criticism for Democrats and Republicans as she campaigned on a message of returning to normalcy.
This was former Ambassador Nikki Haley's first visit to Raleigh this campaign, and Ann Allen and her daughter Julia were excited to see her in person.
I don't think we have the best choices with the two front runners, and I think Nikki is an answer for me.
I just really love seeing a woman in politics. It's amazing, and I'm really hopeful that she gets the nomination.
So is Cecily Christian. She voted for Biden in 2020, but says Haley has her full support now.
I think she's less divisive. I think she's someone a lot of people can stand behind on both sides of the aisle.
Haley spoke for 30 minutes on topics from the economy to immigration to the deficit. She pledged to balance the federal budget and cut taxes on the middle class. She criticized both Biden and Trump on foreign policy.
And now you hear from Trump and from now the Republicans following suit that you have to choose between Ukraine and Israel and the border. They are flat out lying to you.
But her sharpest attack was on Trump's support for Russian President Vladimir Putin.
Trump is going to side with a madman over our allies who stood with us after 9/11?
Haley said she's running to bring normalcy and stability back to politics. She said Americans are tired of drama and global instability and gridlock.
There's a lot of us that want normal again. But we have to go and do something about it.
Haley remains far behind Trump in the polls, but she said she has no plans to get out of the race.
We're running through the tape. That's what's happening. I mean, this is anywhere and everywhere. We leave here, we're headed to Boston, then we're headed to Vermont, and we're headed to Maine. We're going to keep going, and we're going to keep pushing.
Early voting is over for this election, but you can still vote in the primary Tuesday, March 5th. Laura Leslie, WRAL News, Raleigh.
North Carolina's early in-person voting period ended this afternoon. Through Friday, almost 8% of registered voters in North Carolina had already cast ballots. Now, if you did not vote early, polls will be open from 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday.